month and stuff. Just wanted to show you this as well.
About me? I didn't even fight last night. Just Dana.
Do you have any updates about the eye of Tom Aspinall, and is there a rematch in the works?
Oh, Jesus. Don't let me talk about Tom Aspinall's eye. Apparently he's going in for a second surgery or just had it, and by surgery I mean injections. I have no idea. Get a quote from him. God forbid I say something about it. Go ahead.
Jeez.
How close did you think you were to
Here's your quote.
Catching strays, aren't I? Catching strays in my own living room on a Sunday morning. Right, that's this one done. Next week, we got the...
Tom Aspinall just demanded his release from the UFC, and the real reason will blow your mind. Forget everything you've heard about money or fear. This is about a fighter whose vision is literally being destroyed by the sport he dominates, and the UFC's response is absolutely sickening.
The reports are out. UFC asked Tom Aspinall to vacate the title until he was ready to go. And he said he'd be willing to vacate the title as long as they released him. Now, that opens the door so he can go ahead and box. This is a really weird situation. The heavyweight division is just a total shit show right now. And it's been a shit show since the John Jones coming in, not wanting to fight, you know, the interim champion, which was Tom Aspinall at the time, and then fighting Stipe. No disrespect to Stipe, you know, but it was just, John had something in mind, and the UFC didn't squash that. They allowed that fight to happen, and it just led into this thing where the heavyweight division's been on hold since the John Jones, what do we call it? Bottom line is, Jailton Almeida is gone. Okay, they just released him. Tom Aspinall, if he is gone, John Jones doesn't seem like he's coming back, especially not to the heavyweight division. We have a mess. We have a disaster on our hands. The heavyweight division and the 205-pound division, the light heavyweight division, both weight classes are the worst that they've ever been. And these used to be the pillars. This used to be what would carry the promotion. When the merger of Strikeforce and the UFC happened, the heavyweight that had ever been. And the light heavyweight division, honestly, UFC was built off of the light heavyweight division. This is wild to me, man. The 135, 145, 155, and 170 right now are of MMA and definitely carrying the UFC. More to come.
Right, and I'm not defending Tom because I'm a friend of his, and I don't really even talk to Tom very much. We're not even friends like that. I was always an admirer of Tom's work, and I believed in his potential. A lot of people are talking shit because against Cyril Gane.
Here's what nobody's telling you about Aspinall's situation. This man stepped into the octagon with zero preparation, faced absolute destroyer Sergey Pavlovich, and ripped the interim heavyweight title right out of his hands. We're talking about a fighter with combat intelligence that borders on supernatural, combined with savage knockout power that's left a trail of unconscious heavyweights in his wake. But now he's trapped in a nightmare that has nothing to do with his opponents and everything to do with the organization that's supposed to protect him. The harsh reality: a real champion's greatest battle isn't against another fighter. It's against the system that's willing to sacrifice his future for their profit margins.
You're allowed to say, whoa, never mind the fight, I can't see. And then the crowd turned on him. And then this is where a lot of people are saying that he's milking it. Okay, after the fight, you know, they showed footage at the hospital and getting looked at by the doctors, and everyone was like, oh, you're milking it, you're milking it. And then I'm going to go through some of the comments on Twitter in a minute. The same kind of thing there, right? And maybe he was, right? Maybe there was a little truth to that, because I understand it, by the way, because he wants to show the world, hold on a minute, I'm the victim here. I'm the guy that got poked in the eye. I'm not the person out there that's committing the fouls. I had two fingers.
You saw the crowd turn.
But here's where this gets absolutely wild. Aspinall isn't just dealing with typical fight injuries. We're talking about serious vision problems that could end his career and affect his entire life outside the octagon. Think about that for a second. This is a man whose livelihood depends on split-second reactions, on seeing punches coming from angles that would blind ordinary people, and the UFC is sitting there with medical clearances acting like this is just another minor setback. Meanwhile, he's watching his prime years slip away, watching other fighters get the opportunities he's earned, all while dealing with the terrifying possibility that his eyesight might never fully recover.
Let's run it back. And I was dying to, because the fight was a close fight. And yeah, Tom's nose was busted up and Cyril Gane was looking really good. But as fans, is that not what we want? Do we not want to see exciting fights? Do we not want to see back and forth competitive matches?
And get this part because it reveals everything about how this sport really works. When you commit your entire being to fighting, when you sacrifice your body and your future for the entertainment of millions, and then the organization treats your dedication like it's disposable, that creates a different kind of damage. It's not just broken bones that heal in 6 weeks. It's shattered trust that makes you question whether any of this is worth it. Aspinall has given everything to this sport, and now when he needs support the most, when his actual vision is compromised, he's being treated like he's making excuses or looking for an easy way out.
We want to see legendary matchups as fans. We want to see good matchmaking. We want to see two guys that are the best in the world going toe-to-toe and pushing each other to the limit. And that's what we saw, right? It was a competitive.
Now listen to this part because this is where the real betrayal becomes crystal clear. People are whispering that Aspinall wants to quit, that he's lost his warrior mindset, that he's just chasing money somewhere else. Are you kidding me? This is a man who stepped into fire with almost no notice, demolished one of the most feared heavyweights on the planet, and claimed interim gold like it was his birthright. That's not someone looking for an exit strategy. That's a predator who's been caged by the very organization that should be building him up as their next superstar. Real champions don't want to leave the sport they love. They want the chance to prove they're the best in the world.
Is what a lot of the public fan base has had to say. Now, granted, this is on Twitter, right? And we know Twitter is a bit of a cesspool of negativity and toxicity, right? I'm sure if we looked at the Instagram comments, it'd be a little more positive. But look at these guys. First of all, Grok, is this real? Come on, man. You really think the heavyweight champion of the world is out there? He's going to fake something like this? He's going to put some, like, I don't know, eye drops in his eyes and be playing a whole stunt? No, we all saw the eye pokes. We all saw the aftermath. We all saw the fallout. We all saw the appointments with the doctors. And now we're seeing 4 months later the fact that he's had surgery.
Here's the kicker that nobody's talking about. Aspinall's vision problems aren't some minor inconvenience that'll clear up with a few weeks of rest. We're talking about potential permanent damage to his eyesight, the kind of injury that could affect him for the rest of his life, long after his fighting career is over. When a fighter is dealing with compromised vision, every single moment in that cage becomes exponentially more dangerous. You can't see punches coming from your blind spots. You can't judge distance properly. You're essentially walking into battle with one hand tied behind your back, except in this case, it's your eyes that are failing you.
That he didn't even do. If anything, people should be more pissed at Cyril Gane. And then underneath that, Tommy's milking this shit, but hey, it is what it is. He wanted out of the UFC and got his chance. Now he'll sue for a few mil, and that will be that. And we could go on all day, we could go through it, but you get the general consensus, you know? I mean, fake, they said right, I don't know. Listen, at the end of the day, these guys are talking out their arse. What do you mean he wanted out? This man has worked his way up. The man became the interim heavyweight champion of the world by stepping up on short notice and taking out Sergey Pavlovich.
But wait, it gets worse. The UFC's response to all this has been to essentially put him on the shelf indefinitely while they figure out their heavyweight division. Meanwhile, John Jones is playing games about retirement. Stipe Miocic is getting title shots he hasn't earned. And the most dangerous heavyweight on the planet is sitting there watching his career stall because of an injury that happened while he was making the organization millions of dollars. You want to talk about loyalty? This is a masterclass in how the UFC treats fighters who have given them everything.
And that's what he's done to the majority of his opponents. And yeah, you know, he had a couple of things that week with the DC and saying he was going to boxing and all that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, the fight was looking like a really, really good one. Now, I was excited for the rematch, and there's still been no talk of a rematch. Because, of course, there hasn't. How can you have a rematch when one half of the matchup is still going through medical clearance, still trying to get his vision back? And in fact, if you read out the actual statement from the doctor, this was an Instagram post and this is what was written, but it was like written in third person. I think Tom shared it or something like that. It says, after his highly publicized eye poke in...
Hold up, because there's something way bigger happening here that connects to every fighter's worst nightmare. When you're dealing with vision problems as a professional fighter, you're not just risking your next fight. You're risking your ability to see your children grow up, to drive a car safely, to live a normal life after fighting. The medical reality is brutal and unforgiving. Every additional shot you take to the head while your vision is compromised doesn't just threaten one fight, it threatens your entire future quality of life. And the UFC knows this. They have access to the best medical experts in the world, and they know exactly what they're asking him to risk.
We've been working closely with him on his recovery. Following his operation on both eyes, we continue the journey to get Tom's vision back to fighting fitness, right? Now, let's talk about that. What is fighting fitness? Well, I know this very well. The benchmark for having fighting fitness is 20.
Here's where Aspinall's true intelligence shows through, and why his demand for release is actually brilliant strategy, not weakness. He understands something that most fighters don't figure out until it's too late. Your health is worth more than any belt, any payday, any moment of glory. When an organization is willing to pressure you to fight with compromised vision, they're telling you exactly how much they value your long-term well-being. Aspinall is essentially calling their bluff, forcing them to either give him the respect and medical support he deserves, or let him go find an organization that will.
But 2200 vision, all you gotta get is the top letter, the big old massive one, and then the two relatively big ones underneath that. If you can read those three letters, you have 2200 vision. I know this because I cheated the eye test many, many times to go on and have my legendary career, where I did end up in the Hall of Fame and with a few belts and stuff like that, right? So I know what I'm talking about. So to get Tom's vision back to fighting fitness means he's got to have 2200.
And this is the part that should terrify every UFC fighter watching this situation unfold. If they'll do this to an interim champion, if they'll sideline one of their most exciting heavyweights over medical concerns, while simultaneously pressuring him to return before he's ready, what does that say about how they'll treat fighters who don't have championship gold to leverage? Aspinall's situation is exposing the ugly truth about fighter treatment in the UFC, and his demand for release is forcing conversations that the organization desperately wants to avoid.
About it online would say to me that the operation has been a success, so now it just is a matter of time before Tom to rest up, to heal from the surgery, and then come back and rematch Cyril Gane. But how long will that be? Because the one thing that you can't do, and I've said this in multiple other videos, you cannot rush this. When you rush back too soon, things can go wrong. When you operate on something, you weaken it. Anytime you go in there and drill or cut and slice and mess about with it, you weaken it. So you have to allow it a lot of time to restore, to heal 100%.
But here's what's really eating at Aspinall, and why this goes beyond just medical concerns. He's watching his division move forward without him while he's stuck in medical limbo. John Jones is talking about legacy fights against Stipe Miocic, completely ignoring the interim champion who actually deserves the unification bout. Meanwhile, other heavyweights are positioning themselves for title eliminators, and the most dangerous man in the division is sitting on the sidelines wondering if his prime years are being wasted by an organization that doesn't appreciate what they have.
Ignore all the negative comments on Twitter and Instagram and all these dickheads online, because they don't know what they're talking about at the end of the day. You'll be back at some point. I look forward to it. I look forward to the rematch with Cyril Gane, and then you'll get used to all this shit again. Everyone coming out the woodwork and talking crap. Anyway, what do you guys think about everything that I just said? What do you think about Tom's situation? Do you think they're going to bring in an interim champion? Is it going to be Cyril Gane versus Alex Pereira, something like that? I really don't know. But what do you think? As I say, always say, let me know in the comment section and subscribe.
You talk about...
The devastating reality is that Aspinall represents everything the heavyweight division should be. He's young, explosive, technically sound, and brings genuine finishing ability that creates highlight reels and sells pay-per-views. But instead of building the division around him, instead of fast-tracking his recovery and setting up the biggest fights possible, the UFC has essentially put him in storage while they play politics with aging legends and manufactured storylines. That's not just bad business. It's insulting to a fighter who's proven he belongs at the very top.
The best people on the planet. So it's not that he was looking for a way out, it's that he got double poked in the eye. And now, as we say, here we are 4 months later, the man has had surgery. Not one, apparently he's had 2, right? And you can see the damage on the eyeballs, right? Anytime they mess with the eyes, I've had multiple eye surgeries, right? I lost my retina. You all know this story by now if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen this shit, right? Yeah, I lost an eyeball and I had a lot of surgery.
Listen, the UFC's handling of this situation reveals something disturbing about how they view their fighters' long-term health versus short-term profit. When a fighter comes to you with serious vision concerns that could affect the rest of his life, the response should be immediate support, the best medical care available, and a clear timeline for return that prioritizes his health above all else. Instead, we're seeing a pattern of neglect that's pushing one of their best young champions toward the exit door. So here's the bottom line that every fight fan needs to understand. Tom Aspinall isn't running from competition. He's running from an organization that's shown they're willing to gamble with his eyesight and his future for their convenience. His demand for release isn't weakness. It's the smartest business decision he could make. Sometimes the most courageous thing a warrior can do is refuse to fight on terms that could destroy his life outside the cage. And honestly, if the UFC lets him walk away, they're making one of the biggest mistakes in heavyweight division history. What do you think? Is Aspinall right to demand his release, or should he stay and fight through these medical issues? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, smash that like button if this breakdown opened your eyes to what's really happening, and subscribe for more inside analysis of the fights and politics that shape this sport. Hit that notification bell because this story is far from over, and you won't want to miss what happens next. But here's the plot twist that nobody saw coming, and it changes everything about how we should view this entire situation. Sources close to Aspinall's camp are now revealing that his vision problems might not be from recent training or his last fight. We're talking about cumulative damage that's been building up over years of elite-level competition, the kind of gradual deterioration that fighters often ignore until it becomes impossible to hide. This isn't just about one bad shot or one unlucky sparring session. This is about a warrior whose body is finally demanding payment for all those years of punishment, and the timing couldn't be more brutal. Think about the psychological warfare happening here, because it's absolutely mind-bending. Aspinall is dealing with the terrifying reality that his own eyes are betraying him, while simultaneously trying to maintain the mental edge that made him champion in the first place. Every fighter knows that confidence is everything in this sport. The moment you start doubting your physical abilities, the moment you're not 100% certain your body will respond the way it always has, you become vulnerable in ways that have nothing to do with technique or preparation. Now imagine trying to maintain that killer instinct when you're not even sure you can see everything your opponent is throwing at you. And here's where the UFC's business model becomes absolutely predatory. They know that fighters like Aspinall are irreplaceable assets, but they also know that these same fighters have limited windows of opportunity. Every month that Aspinall sits on the shelf with medical concerns is a month closer to the end of his prime, and the organization is betting that his desperation to compete will eventually override his concerns about long-term health. It's a calculated gamble with another human being's future, and they're playing it like they've got nothing to lose because, frankly, they don't. But wait, there's another layer to this that's even more disturbing when you really think about it. The heavyweight division is arguably the most important division in all of mixed martial arts from a business perspective. These are the fights that casual fans tune in for, the knockouts that go viral on social media, the moments that create lifelong fans of the sport. And right now, the most exciting heavyweight on the planet is being treated like he's expendable. That's not just bad for Aspinall, it's catastrophic for the long-term health of the division and the sport as a whole. Here's what's really keeping Aspinall up at night, and it has nothing to do with fear of losing. It's the fear that he'll never get the chance to prove he's the best heavyweight in the world. Jon Jones has been playing retirement games for years, cherry-picking opponents and avoiding the toughest challenges. Stipe Miocic hasn't looked like himself in years and is getting opportunities based on past accomplishments rather than current ability. Meanwhile, the man who destroyed Sergey Pavlovich with surgical precision is being forced to watch from the sidelines as his division moves forward without him. The medical reality of vision problems in combat sports is something most fans don't fully grasp, and it's absolutely terrifying when you understand the science. We're not talking about needing glasses to read fine print. We're talking about depth perception issues that can make it impossible to judge the distance of incoming strikes. We're talking about peripheral vision problems that create blind spots where devastating hooks and kicks can come from. We're talking about potential issues with tracking fast-moving objects, which in a heavyweight fight means getting caught with shots that could literally end your career or worse. And here's the part that should make every fight fan furious about how this is being handled. Aspinall's vision problems aren't just affecting his fighting ability, they're affecting his ability to train properly. When you can't see clearly during sparring sessions, when you can't judge distances accurately during pad work, when your depth perception is compromised during grappling practice, you're not just risking further injury to your eyes. You're risking catastrophic damage to every other part of your body because you can't properly defend yourself or execute techniques with the precision that's kept you safe throughout your career. But here's where Aspinall's intelligence really shines through, and why his approach to this situation is actually revolutionary for fighter rights. Instead of suffering in silence like so many fighters before him, instead of pretending everything is fine while his vision deteriorates, he's forcing the UFC to make a public decision about how they value fighter health versus profit margins. His demand for release isn't just about his own situation. It's creating a precedent that could protect every fighter who comes after him. The ripple effects of this situation are already being felt throughout the heavyweight division, and they're exposing just how fragile the UFC's plans really are. Francis Ngannou's departure already left a massive hole in the division's star power. Jon Jones' constant retirement threats have made it impossible to build stable storylines around him. And now, their most promising young champion is demanding his release because of medical concerns that the organization seems unwilling to properly address. That's not just bad luck, that's a systematic failure of leadership. Here's something that's been bothering me about the fan reaction to all this, and it reveals a lot about how we view fighter health in this sport. There are people out there calling Aspinall soft, questioning his warrior spirit, suggesting that he should just tough it out like fighters used to do in the old days. Are you serious? We're talking about a man's eyesight, his ability to see his family clearly, his capacity to live a normal life after fighting. The fact that some fans think he should risk permanent vision loss for their entertainment is exactly the kind of toxic mindset that allows organizations to exploit fighters in the first place. And let's talk about the financial implications, because money is always part of these decisions whether we want to admit it or not. Aspinall is in his prime earning years as a fighter, but he's also thinking about the next 40 years of his life after fighting. What good is a 7-figure payday today if it comes at the cost of needing expensive medical care for the rest of your life? What's the point of being champion if you can't see well enough to enjoy the success you've earned? These are the calculations that smart fighters make, and Aspinall is clearly thinking several moves ahead. But here's where this gets really interesting from a business perspective, and why the UFC's handling of this situation makes no sense even from a purely financial standpoint. Aspinall represents the future of the heavyweight division. He's young, exciting, technically sound, and has the kind of finishing ability that creates instant classics. Building the division around him should be the organization's top priority, which means doing everything possible to ensure his long-term health and career longevity. Instead, they're treating him like he's replaceable, which is insane when you look at the lack of depth in the heavyweight division. The international implications of this situation are also massive, and I don't think the UFC fully appreciates what they're risking here. Aspinall is one of the biggest stars in European mixed martial arts, a fighter who could headline sold-out arenas across the UK and Europe for years to come. The European market is crucial for the UFC's continued global expansion, and alienating their biggest European heavyweight star over medical concerns that should be their top priority to address is short-sighted beyond belief. Here's what's really tragic about this entire situation, and it connects to a broader problem in combat sports. We celebrate fighters for their toughness, for their willingness to compete through injuries, for their dedication to entertaining us no matter the personal cost. But when a fighter is smart enough to recognize that his long-term health is more important than short-term glory, when he's brave enough to stand up to an organization that's not prioritizing his well-being, we question his heart instead of celebrating his intelligence. The medical experts I've spoken with about vision injuries in combat sports paint a terrifying picture of what Aspinall might be dealing with. Retinal damage from repeated head trauma doesn't just affect your ability to fight, it can progress over time even after you stop competing. Damage to the optic nerve can cause gradual vision loss that's irreversible. Problems with the muscles that control eye movement can affect depth perception and tracking ability permanently. These aren't injuries that you just tough out and hope for the best. And here's the part that should make every current UFC fighter pay attention to how this situation resolves. The precedent being set here will affect contract negotiations, medical protocols, and fighter treatment for years to come. If the UFC is willing to let an interim champion walk away rather than properly address his medical concerns, what does that say about their commitment to fighter health and safety? If they're not willing to invest in the best possible medical care for their champions, what can lower-level fighters expect when they're dealing with serious health issues? But there's another angle to this story that's even more compelling when you think about Aspinall's legacy and what he represents for the sport. This is a fighter who embodies everything mixed martial arts should be in 2024. He's technical but exciting, powerful but intelligent, respectful but confident. He represents a new generation of fighters who understand that longevity and health are just as important as championship gold. His willingness to walk away from the UFC, if they won't prioritize his medical needs, is actually the most courageous thing he could do. The timing of all this couldn't be worse for the UFC's heavyweight division, and that's creating pressure that might actually work in Aspinall's favor. With John Jones playing retirement games and Stipe Miocic clearly past his prime, they need Aspinall more than he needs them. Other organizations are watching this situation closely, and the opportunity to sign the UFC's interim heavyweight champion would be a massive coup for any competitor. Aspinall holds more cards in this negotiation than most people realize,